Honestly, I believe we're at the beginning of this renaissance, man. You know, I think we've had,
The
what's
Philly
that?
Renaissance.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's very real. And I think, the thing about it is Philly's always had these pockets of really great movements, over time. And I think where we are right now is one that's emerging and it's very refreshing. I think Uzi was kind of, he started a bit of it, and then Tierra came kicking doors open. But what I see now when I think about artists like Orion Sun, who's doing a lot of great things, like it's just beautiful, man. And I think sonically, the sound is so diverse that like it's not true to this like Philly sound, quote unquote, right? Where you can just like put your thumb on, oh, that person's from Philly. But I think like underneath it, the way the music is being made is still true to Philly, which is like this communal, let's all come together, let's really like have a bunch of talented people put their focused energy on something and build something that's better than any of the individual parts. And I think that's the way Gamble and Huff did it back in the day. That's the same way the neo soul movement came to fruition. And it came down to, in my opinion, to having these spaces that were dedicated to that, right? Like Philly International Records had a studio where mother, father, sister, brother could all be, and all these incredible talent, could hang out and riff off each other, find people in passing, between sessions. And then even like later, the neo soul movement, they had places like the Black Lily, where they could do open mics, and Jill Scott could be up there and she could run into a Questlove, right? And that could build something really special. So, when I think about Rec and where we're going, I just aspire to be another, resource and another tool to help, spur and capture that energy, and just make sure that like when, a Moses or a Sheed runs into an incredible videographer, there's a space right away. Yo, let's just go get busy right now, knowing that the things are right there. And I hope that if we can be the spot that just makes it so like as soon as inspiration hits, you have everything you need at your fingertips, and there's no distractions. There's no like, oh, okay, it took me so long to find, a studio to go to. Now I'm not even interested in recording this anymore. I hope that that's just going to keep the momentum up in what's already happening, organically.
I definitely think that internet has provided, this bridging of the gaps between Philadelphia, where, like where the quote unquote, I don't want to say weirdos, let's say eclectic artists, and then, the street rappers and, the hood rappers and everything like that, where they're kind of meeting in the middle. And I think somebody that has helped bridge that gap, definitely Uzi, definitely Tierra. And, it's starting to become this melting pot of, where you could just, yo, man, like whatever y'all want to do. Like I know with myself that being able to produce has helped me link with people that like I might not make that type of music myself, but I could produce that beat for you. That, you want to express yourself. So I definitely think like the internet, your space, Rec has definitely provided that spot. I've definitely met people, just going to you guys' spots and being like, oh, you make beats? Oh, hit me up and we'll work.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear that. And the other thing too, I want to mention is like, early on when we start talking about, kind of like the beginning of Rec and maybe even a lot of that apprehension, we started off and we were so about music that I think people also were slow to understand that like, yo, this is bigger than just like musicians too, right? Like, we're really passionate about serving not only artists themselves and musicians, but then we're also that space for videographers. We're also that space for podcasters. We're also that space for managers, right? And I think like when you start to think about where else all these different eclectic skill sets could meet and convene, there's very few spots where that could happen. So I'm just like really proud, and I think, obviously being at the new spot at 9th and Market in the Fashion District, aka the Gallery, that's even opened up the diversity of our membership even more, knowing that now we got the 14 different studios and there's something a bit for everybody. So I've literally I've started to watch that young talent manager get connected to those artists, and artists start to get to know the authors, and the authors are getting connected to photographers. And that's really what's, I think, the most special. Like the whole creative economy can have a spot to kick it.
Yeah, and that's something I think is so dope about Philly. Kind of to touch off what you were saying a little earlier, the beautiful thing about Philly is, I guess I guess people would say a good and a bad thing is the size of the city. Like if you do something creative in Philly, everybody knows you. and there's so many different people doing different things. It's so eclectic. And
Yeah.
You're right. There was never really that unifying thread between everything. There's been lots and lots of pockets over time. But what I appreciate about Rec is that it is it is an attempt to unify all those little pockets,
Yeah.
and be stronger as a whole than anything else that's popped off previously. And I think that's what's going to give Philadelphia the momentum to really have that renaissance that people have been talking about for years.
Yeah. Again, man, I just think that's who we are as a city, man. I think that's always been our identity. I feel like, the best description of Philly geographically I've ever heard. Someone said Philly's the perfect size because it's small enough that you can make a name for yourself, but it's big enough that actually matters.
Wow.
And I thought that was like so beautifully put, because like that's just what it is. So I've always figured that, like, for us, we saw there were so many clicks and picks. Like, we're gonna keep it a buck, right? Like, there's these artists who only hang out at these venues and they have access to these resources. But then you go across the city, and then all of a sudden you see the DIY scene in University City going crazy with the house shows. And then you realize, like, yo, there's these incredible movements all over the city, but no one's talking to each other. So no one really has everything that they need. So it's like, at what point will we be able to kind of break down some of those walls and realize, like, oh, this dude actually knows all the venue owners, and this guy, knows some of the label heads, and these guys are crazy on the visual content. So it's just like, how do we create the dialogue so we can kind of be better together? And I think that's just like so true to our statement of independent doesn't mean alone. It's like, yo, like, we're all better together for real. If we can just, remove ego, as hard as that is, remove ego for a little bit, and really come to the table as businessmen and figure out how we can grow together.
Beautifully put.
Yeah. And there's room for everybody out here with all their art and all their hot takes. Even though your man Sheed has some of the wildest hot takes I've ever seen.